And here's the reason that he doesn't want to do interviews anymore. He got decimated in his interview with Bloomberg News. But also listen to how non-responsive his answers are to the questions. He can't answer a question. After he's asked a question, he'll emit words from his mouth, but they won't be responsive to the question. They won't be apropos to the question. They'll just be words of whatever comes out of his mouth at that moment, whatever he's thinking about, or whatever word salad happens to spew forth. So here, the guy, the interviewer, asks him a question about should Google be, prosecuted for antitrust?
Should Google be broken up?
I just haven't gotten over something the Justice Department did yesterday, where Virginia cleaned up its voter rolls and got rid of thousands and thousands of bad votes, and the Justice Department sued them that they should be allowed to put those bad votes and illegal votes back in and let the people vote. So I haven't gotten over that. A lot of people have seen that. They can't even believe it.
The question is about Google, President Trump.
Yeah.
The question is about Google, President Trump.
But it's something he hasn't gotten over. He heard yesterday, John. He just needs to talk about that. And that way he doesn't have to show that he hasn't thought about Google and knows nothing about the antitrust problem, because he doesn't know anything. He's just getting adulation from his crowds. That's all he wants.
Well, so again, we're filling in the gaps, but so what about Google? Should they be broken up? So it's a legal matter, right? Yeah. So legal matter makes him think about how he's being robbed of votes by the courts, right? And how unfair it is, and how persecuted he is. So the word legal just kind of goes to his legal grievances, and that's what he's talking about. Okay. So let's give him another shot, shall we?
Yes.
Here, what are his grand plans for reducing government spending?
There's tremendous waste.
Give me an example of something you will do that will get rid of government spending.
Well, let me give you an example. When I came into government, I was the first thing.
An example going forward.
Well,
not
no, but
what you did in the past.
This is going forward because it's the same thing. When I first sat down, a general came into my office and he said, "Sir, it's nice to meet you. Would you please sign this?" I said, "What is it?" "It's a contract for a new Air Force One," which is actually two planes, not one, two Boeing 747. And I said, "How much is it?" $5.7 billion. So it's a hell of an expensive plane, but there's reasons for that. He said, "Nope, I'm not signing it." I said, "Who negotiated it?" "Barack Hussein Obama." I said, "I'm not signing it." "Why?" Because there's a lot of fat. He said, "I'm not signing it. It's got to have a 3 on it." Anyway, long story short, some of you have heard this. I got it down to, because first week they cut off $400 million. He said, "I'll cut." I met with the head of Boeing. "Wait, Dennis." I said, "Dennis, you got to have a 3. 5.7 is too much. 5.7 billion." He said, "The most I'll take off is $400 million. I said, "Well, that's not bad for one conversation." So he got it down. I said, "Nope, I'm not accepting." Then he took off 2 more. Then he took off. Anyway, 2 months went by, 3 months went by. I thought we blew the deal, and it was okay with me. I didn't care. But we should have a new Air Force One. When we see these planes from Saudi Arabia, from different countries, brand new, and ours is like 32 years old, and it's a very different plane. It's a much smaller plane, the whole thing. The United States should have the best plane, I will tell you.
So that's how he's going to cut government spending, because, he negotiated. It's like as he looked and said, "See that Cadillac outside? I negotiated the price down from $42,000 to $35,000. Well, that's great, but we're talking about cutting spending for a multi-trillion-dollar budget.
And notice, John, it was another Sir story. We've been noting this for months, that Trump loves to retell stories where someone says, "Sir," and then Trump shows that he's better at the deal than they are. He does it with Macron again, doesn't he, in one of these clips? He always tells the Macron story. But he cannot have a serious conversation with this guy. He can't.
No.
He's unable to.
And so in this next clip, The question, he's answering a question, but the guy keeps interrupting him, saying that you're not answering the question. And he says, slow down, because I need time here. So it brings in the weave again.
Because you got to be able to finish. You move too quick. No, you got to be able to finish a thought because it's very important. You know, this is big stuff we're talking about. You can't go that quickly. So let me just tell you. So I said, no, I'm just telling you basic, it's called the weave. It's all these different things happen. Yeah. So let me just say.
I love the way he's using the weave as a positive reframing of his thought disorder. He said, the question was about Macron, and he's talking about something else.
But he's always covering up and rationalizing his disorder. And that way he hides it from himself too.
Right. Exactly. Well, let's see how he thinks he did in the Bloomberg interview.
Other countries laugh at us. I had a good interview today with Bloomberg. Did anybody see that? That was a great interview. He was a Trump hater. And brilliantly, my staff didn't tell me that. I said, who is this guy? Sir, he hates you very much. He's been after you. So they got me all started before I went up, but it was a great interview. And I think it really showed the plan that we have because he was unable to dispute it. We're going to bring so many companies back into our country. And a lot of them are going to be based right here, right in the great state of Georgia. There's going to be a lot.
Well, Harry, he did say one thing that's true, that the Bloomberg moderator was not able to dispute his policies. And do you know why? Because he was not able to understand them, because he didn't really state any policies.
Right. No, look at the fabrication. He just made it all up in that rally. He'll say anything.
Right. So speaking of saying anything, and speaking of his awareness of his cognitive decline, of course, then what he needs to do is project that, right, onto Kamala. So here's his attempt to project his cognitive decline onto Kamala. So, interesting thing about the 60 Minutes interview, I'll say this before I read this, he dropped out of the 60 Minutes interview, something that hasn't been done in 50 years, because he knew he couldn't do it. And of course, Kamala killed the interview. She did fantastically. So Trump has to somehow make it sound like she didn't. I believe it's very important that Kamala Harris pass a test on cognitive stamina and agility. Her actions have led many to believe that there could be something very wrong with her. Even 60 Minutes and CBS, in order to protect Lion Kamala, illegally and unscrupulously replaced an answer she had given, which was totally, quote, bonkers, with another answer that had nothing to do with the question asked. Also, she is slow and lethargic in answering even the easiest of questions. We just went through almost 4 years of that. We shouldn't have to do it again. He's talking about himself, right?
Of course he is.
Everything aspect in that tweet is a description of Donald Trump.
And just to quote John Heilman again, everything he says is confession or projection. And there it was.
Yeah, I think you can quote him every day of the week because it's always true. It's a very important principle to keep in mind. When you're trying to translate the Trump to reality dictionary, okay, just turn it upside down. Just change the pronouns. Every time he says you, write I.